In a heartless city where no one has time to care, a barefoot boy sits alone, hugging a stale piece of bread like it's his only treasure. But today, something extraordinary happens. He notices a powerful man crying on a bench, broken beyond words. What happens next will shatter your expectations and touch your soul. A child with nothing gives everything to a man who has it all, except hope. This isn't just a story, it's a moment that shows how kindness from the most unexpected place can heal even the deepest wounds. Don't scroll past this. You need to see this. The city bustled with its usual rhythm: honking cars, hurried footsteps, phone calls, and blank stares. No one had time to look around. No one noticed the tiny boy sitting on the edge of the sidewalk. Barefoot, dusty, dressed in rags, he clutched a crust of bread like it was the last thing he'd ever hold. He didn't beg. He didn't complain. He just watched. With eyes that still held hope. That boy was Timur. At the same time, just a few feet away, a sharply dressed businessman sat on a bench. A millionaire, respected and powerful, but today, he wept silently into his hands, crumbling beneath grief no wealth could fix. His son was gone, taken in a tragic accident, and with him, all meaning had vanished. Two souls, one rich in money, the other rich in spirit, collided that day in the most unexpected way. Timur didn't understand status. He didn't care about suits or watches. What he saw was pain, real, human pain. So, with trembling courage, he offered the man the only thing he had left: half his bread, and a warm presence. No speeches. No demands. Just silent solidarity. That single gesture broke the man's wall. And in that moment, something extraordinary happened. A bond was born between a broken billionaire and a boy with nothing to give but love. Together, they began healing. This story is not about charity. It's about connection. It's about how the smallest act of kindness can change a life and maybe even save it. The city stirred as it always did, early, fast, and without patience. Honking horns. Hurrying feet. A blur of umbrellas and briefcases, collars turned up against the breeze. Men and women swept past one another with glazed eyes, absorbed in their destinations, their screens, their thoughts. No one looked up. No one looked down. And so, no one noticed the small figure sitting quietly at the edge of the sidewalk. A boy. Barefoot. Perhaps 7 years old, perhaps younger, his size made it hard to tell. His clothes hung on his frail frame like borrowed rags, ill-fitting and threadbare. A jacket meant for autumn, too thin for the morning chill. His knees were scraped, and his toes, covered in grime, curled reflexively against the cold concrete. Yet he made no sound. Didn't beg. Didn't hold out his hand. Instead, he clutched a piece of bread to his chest, a single heel, hard at the edges. It had been handed to him by a kind-faced woman from a nearby soup station, who offered him food and nothing more. He held it like something sacred. Occasionally, he'd pinch off the smallest crumb and watch the pigeons gather nearby, fluttering and cooing. He wanted to share. He always wanted to share. But he was afraid. Afraid of finishing it too quickly. Afraid of being left with nothing again. People passed him by. Most didn't see him. A few turned their heads with discomfort, one or two dropped a coin in his vicinity, as if that made them good. The boy didn't move. He didn't reach for the money. He didn't even glance at it. His eyes were somewhere else. Watching. Searching. And then he saw him. A man alone, sitting on a bench just beyond the rush of the sidewalk. He looked out of place, like he didn't belong to the chaos around him. Well-dressed, no doubt. A tailored navy coat, leather gloves, patent shoes polished to a mirror sheen. A gold watch gleamed beneath his cuff. But his posture gave him away. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, head in his hands. His shoulders trembled in short, stifled gasps. He wasn't just tired. He was breaking. quietly, and in public, like someone who no longer cared who saw. The boy sat up straighter. In his short life, he had seen many things: drunken arguments, bloody fights, men throwing punches, women screaming, people sleeping on cardboard. But he had never seen this. A grown man. Crying. And not just any man. A man who looked like he owned the whole street. Something stirred in the boy's chest. Not pity. Not curiosity. Something gentler. Sadder. Something that said, he's alone, too. And so, slowly, cautiously, the boy rose. He looked down at the bread in his hand. His one possession. His only comfort. Then he looked back at the man on the bench. A decision formed inside him. He crossed the street, weaving through the stream of legs and traffic and indifference. No one stopped him. No one even noticed. He approached the man and stood quietly beside the bench for a moment. The man didn't move. Then the boy sat. Not too close. Not too far. Just close enough to be present. Just close enough to be there. He said nothing. He simply sat, the crust of bread still pressed against his chest like a shield. Eventually, the man became aware of him. He blinked, pulled his hands away from his face, and looked to his side. And saw him. A barefoot boy in rags, with solemn eyes and a presence too still, too calm for a child his age. Their eyes met. The man cleared his throat and attempted to speak, but no words came. It wasn't shame. It wasn't pride. It was disbelief. Why was this child here? Why now, when everything had fallen apart? And then the boy held out the bread. He didn't say take it. He didn't say eat. He just offered it, like it was the most natural thing in the world. The man stared at it, stunned. Why would you give this to me? He asked hoarsely. You have nothing. The boy shrugged softly. But now I have you. His voice was small, yet sure. The man blinked. I don't understand. The boy looked down. When people are sad, he murmured, they should eat. Mama used to say that. When you're hungry and sad, everything feels worse. If you eat, even just a little, the pain becomes softer. Like maybe you can get through one more day. The man swallowed hard. He looked at the child again, really looked. He saw the dust on his face, the small scratch on his cheek, the way he guarded that bread like it was treasure. And still, he gave it away. What's your name? The man asked. Timur. Timur, he let the name sit in the air. You're very kind. The boy's lips turned up in a faint, uncertain smile. I lost someone, the man said at last. A boy. My son. He was 8. A bit older than you. Timur's eyes darkened. Where did he go? Gone, the man whispered. We were in a car accident. I lived. He didn't. There was a silence, long and deep. Do you miss him? Timur asked gently. Every second. The boy nodded solemnly. Then he's still with you. The man turned to him, startled. Mama said if you love someone really much, they never leave. Even when you can't see them. They stay inside, like a candle. You just have to keep them warm. Keep remembering. Alexei, the billionaire, the man who had everything and still felt empty, covered his face again. But now he cried freely, not with shame but with release. The boy didn't say more. He placed a hand on the man's arm and simply sat. That moment, silent, unspectacular, unphotographed, was the moment Alexei's world cracked open. When he finally spoke again, his voice had changed. My name is Alexei, he said. I have homes. Cars. Accounts I've forgotten how to count. But none of it matters anymore. He looked at the boy. I've been trying to disappear, he said. But now I wonder if I was meant to find you instead. Timur said nothing. His small fingers remained curled around the edge of the man's coat. You gave me everything, Alexei whispered. And you asked for nothing. The man stood and held out his hand. Come with me. Timur hesitated. Where? Anywhere. Somewhere warm. Somewhere safe. To eat. To talk. To just be. Timur looked at the man's hand. Then up at his eyes. He reached out and placed his small fingers into Alexei's. They fit. And so, they walked an unlikely pair. The billionaire and the barefoot boy. One with nothing, who gave everything. The other with everything, who finally understood what it meant to receive. And as they disappeared into the city, side by side, something old and broken inside them both began to heal. They didn't know what the future held. But they knew one thing for certain. They would no longer face it alone. If this story touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Comment your thoughts. Tag someone who needs to remember what humanity looks like. And if you've ever felt alone, just know there's always someone who sees you. Be that someone for another. Red Heart.